Hello, this is the second of my videos about my improvisation method. In the first one, which I hope you've seen, I talked generally about how to approach improvising, why we do it, and so on, and I explained that the method we're going to use is a duet method. I'm going to play accompaniments, you're going to improvise over them. Now, in this video, I'm going to give some tips and advice about what might happen the first time that you try it, and I'm also going to look in a bit more detail at the accompaniment that I usually do first, which I've called Let's Go. I called it that because I think it's a good title for the first one and because I think it has a nice jolly go-ahead feel. So let's go to the piano. First of all, I will play you a little bit of the accompaniment for Let's Go. I don't claim this as an original composition. It's just a standard chord progression with quite a familiar sort of rhythm. But anyway, it goes like this. And so on. It carries on like that for as long as we feel is appropriate, really. So, what might happen the first time somebody improvises over that accompaniment? Well, all sorts of things might happen. It might be absolutely great. They might play beautiful music, in which case, no problem. We can move on and develop from there. But I want to give some tips for if it doesn't sound so great, at least to the person listening. For instance, a very young child might just take the opportunity to have a good old bash on the black keys, not really listening to the accompaniment and not really doing anything musical. So that sort of thing. Even if it's not quite like that, they might do something that's sort of okay, but doesn't really fit in with the accompaniment. So it doesn't have a sense of fitting in with the rhythm, for instance. Somebody else might be very shy and sort of, this isn't usually a problem with children, can be with adults, can be with children. They might be shy and say, well, what shall I do? Now, for all those situations, my tip is the same. Don't do too much. Start with one long note and take it from there. And listen to the accompaniment. So we don't need to get into long discussions of beat and rhythm, but if you say to a child, listen to the accompaniment and make what you do fit with it, that will usually help a lot. So it's quite hard for me to demonstrate something that doesn't fit in with the accompaniment, but I'll have a go. I'll do a left-hand version of the accompaniment. I mean, not only was that lots of bashed notes, but I was trying my best to make it clash with the rhythm. The other thing is, I suggest don't play lots of notes at once, at least at first. At first, just play one note at a time. So what I'm suggesting is something like this. That sort of thing. So you see, as long as it's in time with the accompaniment, in one way or another, it'll sound okay. It really doesn't matter very much which black key you play. Something else that the person might do is imitate the rhythm of the accompaniment. So the accompaniment has this dum ba dum ba dum dum ba dum ba dum rhythm. Well, the pupil or the player might do something like this. That's fine, that's quite nice, up to a point, but we don't want to do that too long. I know the accompaniment has the same rhythm going on and on all the time, but that doesn't mean that the melody should. As I say, some people might do that, but that's quite hard for a beginner to do anyway. Obviously, the slower the accompaniment, the easier it is, but still quite hard for a complete beginner. So again, really the tip is the same for everyone. Try starting with long single notes. Then when you're getting a bit more confident, perhaps halve the length of the notes, start putting in more interesting rhythms. Maybe sometimes play more than one note at once. It will sound okay. Don't do lots and lots of notes generally, but 2 or even 3 will sound fine on the black keys. And just develop it so it's interesting to listen to, perhaps so that it tells a story. So let me demonstrate what I mean. Obviously, what you do doesn't have to be the same as this, that's the whole point, but I'm going to illustrate the sort of things I was saying. I'm going to start with some long notes, then some shorter notes, then put more interesting rhythms in, maybe a few chords, in other words, more than one note at a time, and just sort of vary it a bit. Okay. And notice also that at one point I discovered a nice little phrase that then I repeated. That's another thing. If you come up with an idea that you really like, see if you can repeat it. Not too many times, of course. What we're aiming for is for it to be enjoyable for the listener, which tends to mean a balance between doing the same thing and doing something different. Okay, now I just want to that's nearly the end of this video. I just want to briefly talk about how we start and finish. Now, most of these accompaniments have a little intro or introduction. And sometimes I'll count in to tell you when to come in, but it's quite nice if you get to know how the introduction sounds and know when to come in. On the other hand, being improvisation, it doesn't matter if you don't come in when I'm expecting. It really doesn't matter, but it's quite nice to be aware of it. So in Let's Go, the introduction sounds like this. And that's where you come in. Let me demonstrate that once more. That's you. So you see what I mean. Now, what happens is it's a particular chord sequence. We go round it a few times. When we come to the end, I don't signal that we're coming to the end except by slowing down. So it'll go something like this towards the end. slowing down and in fact changing the rhythm and getting louder. So I'm really emphasizing the fact it's coming to an end. Now, if you're listening, you'll probably hear that. Don't panic when you hear that. Just sort of, once you get used to it, you'll probably finish exactly the same time as me. But if not, it really doesn't matter if you carry on longer. Let me demonstrate that. So we go. So there, my left hand, which is me, had basically reached the last chord, but my right hand, which is you, carried on for a bit, and that sounded absolutely fine. So each accompaniment has an intro and an ending. The idea is the intro signals to you when to come in, but you can choose not to come in there, or if you don't spot it, again, it doesn't matter. Likewise, the ending is the ending, but if you go past the ending a little bit, it doesn't matter too much. Just come to your own ending. Don't panic, just come to your own ending, as we did there. Okay, I think that's quite enough talking from me. So that was general tips and an explanation of the first accompaniment, Let's Go. The next video will be the actual accompaniment for Let's Go.